there and taps his hands and you're just sitting there and you sit there and rocks back and forth in the chair like big old murderer or whatever he is convicted. Up to this point of a case, not in handcuffs, not in shackles, one or the other or both, and in orange.
Hello, everybody. It's been a little while. I think it's been a week or so since I've gone properly live, as in my face on the screen. And here's Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Right. So today will be interesting because you guys have all seen something I haven't. I've been asleep, and I especially decided to not watch the Bryan Kohberger plea hearing and watch it for myself with you guys all live, fresh. Yeah, I feel very weird about this. Very weird, very skeptical, very just not sure what this is all about. And hoping that this gives me gives everybody some sort of answers. Been following this right from the beginning, been streaming about it from the day I started streaming. It was the very first stream I ever did was about Bryan Kohberger and the very weird lack of evidence of him in that house and of those people in his house, in his car, the very short timeline that they had of him committing these terrible crimes. And since that day, that was middle of July, I think, 2023, nothing really more has come out to convince me, although a lot's been under seal. I'll say that. Maybe now that this is done, maybe there'll be discovery released. Maybe we'll see some interview with him, which will be really damning. I don't know. But hey, you guys know things I don't know. Maybe something happened today. And I'll say hi to everybody in chat really quickly. Hi, Bunny Murphy. Hi, Johnny Osprey. Hi, Mavka. And thank you so much, EWD Raptor, for giving 10 memberships out already. That's so nice of you. Scott, hi. Half Irish, you're the best. Rachel D, hi. Hi, Burger King. Nice to see you. And Hella Guilty, how are you? Is that you, Lefty? Or Mavka? Doesn't matter. Anyway, let's get into what you get. Let's bring Dali in first.
Hey.
Hey, mate. How are you? Ow, fuck. Can you get your headphones fixed?
Oh, well, yeah, I need to do my headphones too, but I have a crick in my neck.
Hello, El McCallie girl. Nice to see you, love. Welcome in. All right. Damn it, Tali. That happened 6 weeks ago. Just duct tape them up, for God's sake.
I've got some over there, but Actually, I need to, because
Right.
the wire's about to break, and it's the
Yeah.
headphone side, head jack.
Okay. You don't want to get head jacked.
No.
No. All right. Here's our beautiful Anjanette. Hi, Anjanette. Love you. She's so
Slay
sweet.
queen. Wait,
Queen.
maybe wrong choice of words there.
Yeah. Wrong choice. All right. So I just want to watch Anjanette for just a second, then we'll get straight into it because, she's cool. I like her. She's really she's become someone I like, even though she's from the law and crime and the whole major network thing. I've been chatting to her a bit and getting to know her, and she's actually really defense-minded.
Yeah.
So she's actually cool. So
She's actually one of the few people that stream or comment in this sphere that is actually, in our opinion, humble opinion, worthy of respect.
Yeah.
Without naming names.
Don't mind talking to her. She's all right.
She's one of the good ones.
Yeah, lots of pics. This is
Oh, is this like a technical glitch?
She doesn't realize they're live.
Oh no.
So they mute her, but they don't take her off camera yet. So she doesn't pick her nose or anything embarrassing, but it's kind of funny. and it goes black for a second, then comes back to her, and they're all ready, but it's like, yeah.
Oopsie. Hey, Maddie B. Hey, Kalina Hope. How's it going?
Oh, now they're ready.
Right, okay. Oh, orange.
And then they go live.
Still muted?
And she's still muted.
from the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, Idaho. This is where Bryan Kohberger, the man accused, he stands accused right now of murdering 4 University of Idaho students. We can't say their names enough. They are Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. He is expected to change his plea after more than 2.5 years to guilty in just a short time, in a little less than an hour from now. This is a seminal moment. I cannot overstate the gravity of this moment. We were preparing for a trial in
what
this
a
case,
narcissist.
a death penalty trial to start in this case. Later this month, there were going to be sealed hearings at the very end of July, and then jury selection, voir dire, was going to start on August 4th. That is not going to happen now if Judge Stephen Hippler accepts this plea agreement that was reached apparently or late last week between the state and the defense. This is somewhat surprising, but also somewhat not. The defense in this case has been trying to get the death penalty stricken for some time now. They filed a number of motions over the last several months asking Judge Stephen Hippler to strike the death penalty. They said that Bryan Kohberger had autism spectrum disorder, and that should make him ineligible for the death penalty. They said that the state of Idaho... Well, everyone should be ineligible for the death penalty because it's stupid and barbaric. But anyway, moving on. So... court will resume shortly. Righto. Oh, they're in the pretty courtroom.
Yes.
Yes.
I do. Well, we'll get to it.
No, you're not telling me anything.
I'm not.
Nothing.
No spurlers.
Or Asperger's. Or any of those things.
No Asperger's.
Right? No. Hey, Tracy Burton, how are you? Turn off your damn alarm, darling. What alarm? I didn't hear anything. Oh, hey, Ben Aaron, how are you? Good to see ya. Hey, Hella, and still hanging around. Yeah, you are, man. I love ya.
Oh, no, she means my headphones.
Oh, yeah.
It's the principal.
All right, let's go. Look at all these filthy, filthy state prosecutors. Look at them all. They're so pleased with themselves that their dirty secrets don't have to come out in court. That's what this is all about. Filthy shitbags. Look at Ashley Jennings. She's just like, yes, I got away with it. Yes. Snap! Nibbles with the 10 gifted memberships. Thank you so much, Nibbles. Nibbles. Thank you. And I appreciate it today. Yeah, this has been a long haul covering this case. This has been a long one, and I appreciate the support today. Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you, mate. You've always been such a great supporter of the channel, and thank you, and welcome new members. All right, let's get going. Ronnie, I'm not watching your comments. Stop it.
All right, this is CR 0124316665. Defendant is present in custody with counsel Ms. Thompson, Ms. Jennings, and Ms. Taylor, Ms. Massoff, and Ms. Barlow. The state's present with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Horowitz, Ms. Jennings, and Mr. Nye is here as well. Am I miss anybody? I'm sorry.
Ms. Allen is here as well.
Ms. Allen is here as well. Very well, thank you. All right, we are here today to entertain a change of plea. Before I start, I want to address some issues of concern and otherwise. First, I appreciate everybody in attendance today being on their best behavior. Please, no outbursts or demonstrations. Any such conduct will result in immediate removal and may result in an inability to attend further court proceedings in this case. I want to point out that there have been calls by some for the public to contact me and my office in an attempt to influence my decision-making in this case.
Oh, I wonder who.
This has been extraordinarily disruptive for court staff and the ability for them to get work done, not only in this case, but in other cases where defendants are entitled to have their cases processed and, frankly, as important, if not more so, for victims to have their cases processed in those cases. It's also highly inappropriate. A court is not supposed to, and this court will never, take into account public sentiment in making an opinion regarding its judicial decisions in cases. Courts should, and I...
Hippie having a bit of a spurg out right now at Steve G and the family, the Gonsalves.
Yes, do not touch the cows, people. Do not touch the cows.
He's pissed.
Yeah,
He's pissed.
Sounds like it caused a huge problem for him.
Yeah. And they were all like, well, and their supporters were all like, oh, this is just the First Amendment free speech. We can talk if we want, right? Judge doesn't think so. Judge is like, nah, it's highly inappropriate, and it's pissed off my staff too, and it stopped down our proceedings at our general court business.
Well, you
so,
can say what you want, you just can't harass.
Can't influence me. Yeah, well, he said, no, I can't be influenced.
Yeah.
So isn't that interesting? No, you can't.
Yeah.
I always will make decisions based on where the facts and the law lead me, period. I have not read any of the numerous messages nor listened to any of the numerous voicemails that have been sent to me and my staff. Those have all been forwarded to security and, where appropriate, to law enforcement. I ask that you not continue to mount such campaigns or to send me information like this because, again, it is not appropriate and, frankly, not something I would take into account when deciding a matter in a case like this.
Wow.
I also want people to understand some very basic concepts about the ideas of separation of powers, what the court's duties are, and what the duties and the rights of the executive, or in this case, the prosecuting attorney, is.
Of course, he has to explain all this.
The executive, the elected prosecutor, is the sole authority in deciding what charges to pursue including whether, as well as what penalties to ask for and what penalties to pursue, including the death penalty. This court cannot require the prosecutor to seek the death penalty, nor would it be appropriate for this court to attempt to do that. This court, in considering a plea agreement, if it were to reject this plea agreement, cannot force the state to seek the death penalty. My role and power in considering a plea agreement is extremely limited. My role is to ensure that the defendant's plea is given freely, voluntarily, and intelligently. If those things are met, I can only reject a plea, such as the one in this case, where I'm not being asked to agree to the sentence in advance. If I can only reject it, for example, if the defendant does not meet or admit to all of the elements of the crime. That is, I can ensure what is called a factual basis to the plea.
So, like Steve G sitting there in the gallery going,
Awkward.
like Homer, right now.
Just disappearing into the pew.
Yeah.
Finally, I want to offer my apologies to all the families, including the victims' families, the families of the defendant, for the short notice for today's hearing, and I'm sure what must have been the hurried efforts to get here. I, like most everyone else, learned of this plea agreement Monday afternoon and had no inkling of it beforehand. Prior to that time, I was under the belief that this case was proceeding to trial, as had been indicated, and my staff and I were busy continuing to work on preparations to have potentially 10,000 citizens of Ada County come to jury duty starting in mid-July. With the questionnaire process in mid-July. It was once I learned of the defendant's decision to change his plea in this case, it was important that I take the plea as soon as possible because of the extraordinary administrative efforts that were otherwise attendant to the process of this getting this trial potentially underway on time. And including the significant process of bringing, again, potentially up to 10,000 jurors to come in and fill out juror questionnaires prior to the beginning of the voir dire process. And so it was important that we, if we're going to go down this road, do so expeditiously so that we can avoid those costs and expenses associated with that. Otherwise, if it was not going to result in a plea, or if for some reason the plea were to fall through today, that we could continue diligently towards trial at the time specified. And so that obviously required that we act quickly. And so some folks may have not had the amount of time that we would otherwise allow for them to travel here. And so, again, I apologize for that. I want to make people aware that during the hearing, if you are to leave the courtroom for any reason, you will not be readmitted during the hearing. Also, when we finished the hearing this morning, I asked that the public and media wait in their seats until the victims' families and the defendants' families and others are escorted out of the courtroom before you start to leave. Finally, I want to acknowledge the trial court administrator and her staff, the Ada County Sheriff, and Ada County 4th District Marshal Service for the huge lift that they've accomplished in preparing for and orchestrating this hearing today, as well as to all the security attendant today that you see, and some of whom many of whom you don't see, with less than 48 hours notice. And so I appreciate the hard work that they've been doing, but frankly, some of them while they were on some vacation prior to the trial starting and had to call that short. And so I appreciate very much their professionalism and dedication. All right. That said, let's move to the business of today. I understand the state and the defense have reached a plea agreement in this case. For the record, I have a written plea agreement which indicates In sum, the defendant will plead guilty to all 5 counts in the indictment: burglary, felony, and first-degree murder, 4 counts. The state and the defendant stipulate, that is, that the defense is not free to argue for a lesser sentence at sentencing, to the following. The defendant on the burglary charge will be sentenced to 10 years fixed, and that the defendant on counts 2 through 5, the 4 counts of first-degree homicide, on each count would receive a fixed life sentence, all 5 of those counts to run consecutive to one another.
What did he burgle?
Defendant, as part of the plea agreement, waives his right to appeal, as well as his right to appeal the sentence and his right to seek leniency or reconsideration of the sentence under Idaho Criminal Rule 35.
Oh. Pause.
This is not a Rule 11 agreement, meaning the court is not.
Yeah.
Just burglary is involving the legal entry into a building or other area without permission. So just going into the house would technically be burglary.
The door was open. Anyway, I don't care. I'm sorry. I've got my head in my hands about the no right to appeal thing.
Yeah.
Bound by the plea agreement and could impose a different lawful sentence at sentencing. The stipulated agreement between the parties is the maximum on each count. So theoretically, the only thing the court could do would be a lesser sentence at sentencing. But the defendant is not free to ask the court to do so under the plea agreement. Are there any other material terms of the plea agreement that the parties would like to make? Obviously, the written plea agreement will speak for itself and be part of the court record.
Not from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Right, very well. All right. Ms. Taylor, have you had sufficient time to discuss this case and all of its ramifications with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Have you discussed fully with him his rights, defenses, and possible consequences to him of the guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been able to do all the discovery you feel necessary?
Yes, Your Honor.
No.
And have you,
You said no the other
informed
day.
your client of the importance of providing the court truthful and accurate
And
answers?
did
in
you
taking
notice
this
her
plea today?
hesitation?
I have.
Yes. What
Go
are you
back a few
doing?
All the discovery you feel necessary.
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you
There was a long
informed
pause there.
your client of the importance of providing?
How could she say that? She put it in writing last week. She got up in court and said that she hadn't done all the discovery. She needed more time. Like, she put in a motion to continue, and it had 30 pages of how she hasn't had enough time to do the discovery.
Yeah.
How did she get up in court and say that? And throw her client's life away and say that?
Well, it's Brian's choice.
Why is he making this choice?
Well,
And
they give a factual basis.
Okay, I don't want to.
I know. I'm not going to say anything. Just
I'm angry at her. She's
I'm-
lying.
there was a lot of hesitation there when she agreed that they'd gotten the discovery.
Because she knows that she got up in court just the other day and said that she hadn't done all the discovery.
Yeah.
She knows it. She put it in writing. When is she lying? Right now, Scott. He
Now or
asked
last
her.
week?
Well, was she lying last week or is she lying now? Regardless, she's lied.
Yeah.
Regardless, one of the 2 times she's lied. Which one is it?
the court truthful and accurate answers in taking this plea today?
Yeah.
I have.
Well, it
Have you
doesn't-
apprised your client of any and all offers and counter?
But online, you're a lawyer, right? Okay, I get it. She has to say that, or Hippler won't accept a deal. Well, we'll put that over to Brian then. He has to say he hasn't been coerced, or he won't accept a deal.
I mean, that.
Yeah, this is just a game.
Let's just say he's doing this solely to avoid the death penalty, because he believes he'll be found guilty because of the judge's rulings, like no alternate suspects being allowed to be argued. Well,
Yeah.
then the judge says you can't plead guilty if you did not do it. So he has to then be forced into going to trial and getting the death penalty. It
So
just
that's really coercion, isn't it? Are you in fear of something like that? I can't remember the wording, but we'll hear it soon. There's a question regarding are you in fear, or have you been threatened in some way?
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, my attorney
I've been threatened. Someone's going to kill me. The state.
Yeah.
Hello.
and you denied a motion to continue the trial because my attorney said she needed more time for the mitigation phase, which would save my life.
Yeah. Exactly. Why give up appeals? Clearly, that's not on the table to keep it. Right,
It
Maddie?
just- yeah. Well,
That's not that they haven't offered that. He's scared. He is scared of walking out in front of a fucking firing squad. And he knows that his counsel's not prepared. And she's standing there and saying, oh, yeah, I've done all the discovery.
and if he's we'll continue watching.
I was interested in in Solomon's tweet yesterday regarding what happens in jail, especially like in regard to pleas and things like that. They freaking get in your head and they play mind games with you. Right?
Jailhouse lawyers.
Standing silent during arraignment is
Yes.
meaningless. It's a very common thing depending on the local custom. Yeah.
It's very common in Michigan because on Court Roulette in the morning we watch different judges or different courtrooms. Michigan, I'm not sure about Texas, but I know in Michigan, like Judge Simpson, they always stand mute.
Yeah. It's nothing. All right, let's keep going.
Offers and answered his questions about those.
Yes,
Do you consent to the entry of the plea today?
I do.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, I need to ask you some questions this afternoon, or I guess it's this morning still. I do this to ensure that so that I am assured that you understand the nature of the charges to which I understand you're going to plead guilty, as well as the possible consequences to you of your guilty pleas. I want to make sure your plea is given voluntarily. And I want to make sure that you actually committed the crimes to which you're pleading guilty, because I don't want you to plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. If you attempt to plead guilty today, but for some reason I don't accept your plea, then it is possible that your statements today could be used against you later at trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And now, while you're standing, actually, why don't you take the oath from the clerk?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter not given before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Kohberger, just to make it easier, you don't
How
need to stand when you
emotionless.
speak to me. I appreciate the sign of respect, but for convenience, you can remain seated. All right.
He's a very respectful murderer.
He is.
Jesus.
Before I start asking you questions today, have you consumed substantive questions? Let me ask you: have you consumed any alcohol, drug, or other intoxicating
Where did I
substance
get that
that
from?
would impair your ability to understand or exercise reasonable judgment?
Hooch.
No.
You feel like you are thinking clearly today.
Yes.
All right. I want you to understand what the possible penalties are for each of the crimes to which I understand you're going to offer a guilty plea today. They include on count one, the burglary, a fine of up to $50,000 and a period of incarceration of up to 10 years in the state penitentiary. You may be required to pay restitution to any victims of the crime. Count 2, 3, 4, and 5 for first-degree murder. The consequences include a fine of up to $50,000, a period of incarceration of life imprisonment, which is a requirement of a sentence, that it be a life sentence with a mandatory minimum sentence of at least 10 years on each of those counts. In addition, you would be potentially responsible for a fine of up to $5,000 to each of the victims of your crime to be enforced in the form of a civil judgment to operate as additional punishment. This is in excess of any restitution or fines that the court could order. And again, you may be required to pay restitution to the victims of the crime. You would be required to provide, as to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression, and potentially pay for analysis of those samples. You would lose any right
get
to
it from my
possess, purchase,
trash.
or carry a firearm, the right to serve on jury duty, the right to hold public office, and the right to vote. Do you understand the charges and all those possible
Jury
consequences?
duty.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to serve on jury duty, though. I'd be good at it. I'm a criminology major.
You've heard the plea agreement that I talked about today. Do you agree with that
Yeah,
plea
it'll
agreement?
be okay.
Yes.
I know you're upset.
And do you understand the nature of the charges that you've been charged with that I understand you're going to plead guilty today to?
Yes.
Emotionless.
As I indicated, I'm not
Narcissistic
bound
voice.
by the plea agreement, but the plea agreement is for the maximum on each count. Do you understand that I'm not bound by the plea agreement?
Yes.
Has anyone promised you that I would be lenient or easy on you if you pled guilty?
No.
I mean,
Has anyone threatened you or anyone close to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
literally,
Is
yes.
anyone other than the
Literally,
state's
yes.
agreements with respect to the plea agreement, has anyone promised you anything in exchange for your plea agreement?
No.
Not to kill me.
Not to kill. Not to kill.
I am so sick of the way courts are set up with this whole, like, did anyone promise you not to do something? Yes. That's the whole point, the reason they're pleading. Well, you can only plea if you're guilty, though.
It's a plea. It's a deal. There's a deal. What's the deal? Did someone promise you something? Yes. In this instance, it's to not walk me out in front of a bunch of guys with guns.
And get a bullet, hopefully, in my heart. But, sometimes they miss, and I have to sit there in agony.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll just plead guilty because I don't want my family to go through that.
Yeah, also, my lawyers have told me I'm fucked because they're not ready, right? And all the alternate perpetrators who they found, you, judge, have said fuck you to the jury finding out about them, right? Actually, you said fuck you to everything that my lawyers have come to you with. Everything.
Yep.
You've just said fuck you. So, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to walk out and there's going to be a bunch of dudes with guns. So, I'd rather that didn't happen. So, yeah, someone's promised me something that those dudes with the guns aren't going to come.
Yeah.
So, I think I'd rather that. I'm kind of, you know what? I've kind of got used to jail life. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
In comparison.
I got vegan food, so.
Yeah, I got beans and rice. Doing all right. I think I'd rather that.
Has anyone told you to be untruthful in answering my questions today?
No.
Hey, BW.
Has anyone offered you a reward of any kind other than the plea agreement in order to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
Hesitation there.
And counsel, obviously there have been a number of motions filed to suppress evidence in this case. Other than those filed, are there any other motions that you felt were available with respect to Rule 12?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
Have you had enough time to decide whether or not to plead guilty?
Yes.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Given your choices, do you believe it's in your best interest to plead guilty?
Yes.
Have you discussed fully the matter of pleading guilty with your attorney, and are you satisfied with the advice you've received?
Yes.
Has your attorney advised you to your satisfaction about what your rights are, what your defenses may be, and what the possible consequences to you of your guilty plea are?
Yes.
Has your attorney done everything you've asked them to do?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with their representation of you?
Yes.
Don't say that. Later. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I have received a written guilty plea advisory questionnaire that is purported to be filled out by you. Did you fill that document out?
Yes.
Did you understand the questions that you answered in this document?
Yes.
And are the answers that are outlined in this document your answers?
Yes.
Are those answers truthful?
What
Yes.
document?
probably
Did you
the
sign the document?
plea agreement?
Yes.
And this document outlines many of the rights that you have in this case should you not plead guilty. Did you understand those rights?
Yes.
They include a right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to the presumption of innocence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah,
You
right.
have the right to require the state to prove your guilt as to each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Golly.
They include a right to confront your accusers and cross-examine witnesses presented by the state, including by utilizing the subpoena power of the court to accomplish that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You understand you would have a privilege against self-incrimination and a right to remain silent, meaning you would not be compelled to testify if you did not wish to, had you not pled guilty.
Yes.
You're going to go
You
get it,
understand
aren't
you're
you?
giving up that privilege and those rights that I've just outlined by pleading guilty.
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the state would have had to have proven at trial had you, as to the crimes that you're pleading guilty to, had you, if you didn't plead guilty. Let me find the document. Hang on a second here. All right. So as to count one burglary, the state would have to have proven that on or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence located at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. As to count two, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died. As to count three, the state would have had to have proven that on that same date in Latah County, at that same address, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. As to count four, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. And then as to count five, also murder in the first degree.
Max. Okay, so Max says, what if after the judge reads out the charges that he's pleading guilty to, Bryan Kohberger changes his mind and says, hell no, I didn't do that. Okay, so I assume that he didn't do that today. However, and I want to ask Online read this in chat, she's probably the only lawyer present, and I think she knows the answer to this. I don't think you're from Idaho, Online read, but I think that this may be a global rule in the US. Is there kind of like when you sign a contract for a house or any contract, like a cooling off period, right? Because I've heard people on X talking about this over the last day or two, that if he goes through or with all of this, can he, within the next sort of 30 to 60 days, come back and go, hang on, nah, I didn't mean it, right? And then all of this gets nullified, and he asked for new lawyers, and the whole thing's back on again, and there's a big continuance.
I don't.
Right?
I don't think so. I haven't heard of anything.
Well,
like
I've had a few people say it
Really?
over the last couple of days. Yeah, that this could just be a big ruse to get a big continuance. Yeah. Don't know. So, online, do you know anything about that? Is that a possibility? If it is, I think it's a shit move on his behalf.
Yeah.
But yeah, just wondering.
That on or about November 13th, 2022, in Lake County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing him, from which he died.
Not that you
Do
know
you
of.
understand those things the state would have had to have proven?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, the state no longer has to prove those things because you're admitting those things are true?
Yes.
I want to also make for the record, the defendant has provided with the guilty plea advisory form a document entitled Written Factual Basis that purports to have the defendant's signature dated 1 July 2025. Did you sign that document?
Yes.
And did you agree with the written factual basis that is included there?
Yes.
And then let me ask you, did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
Did you honor about that same date in
Really?
Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation?
Okay, so hang on a minute. Let's just play this out for a second. So, he can withdraw his guilty plea up until sentencing according to Idaho law, and then Orlando says, okay, so, and if he somehow found a magic loophole, DP is back on the table, and then they play this entire hearing for the jury, and he gets a DP. But imagine, let's play this a little bit further, right? Imagine if he manages to get his new counsel, maybe, to get him like psychologically evaluated to say that actually no, he was not of sound mind when he did this, right? Because that's the only explanation, right? Or that he actually was being manipulated or under threat. Because if you say you're not under threat, but you are under threat, of course you'd lie about being under threat.
Yeah.
Right? If you were to have people testify that there were people in jail who were going to like do something to your family, for example, right? And I'm just playing this out, right? If there was evidence of such things happening behind the scenes, this hearing could be suppressed and it could all start again. I know I'm reaching, but I'm just like, what could happen? Because I mean, I didn't realize that. Yeah, he could do that up until the sentence.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, what he says here can still be used against him in subsequent hearings.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
And malice aforethought.
Yes.
And then or about November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
I would ask the state at this time to provide its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the organization of the recitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents. The state's evidence, as an overview, would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing at his parents' residence or was residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year,
So listen to this.
the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington,
This is
which is
interesting.
right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants. Between July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times.
That doesn't matter.
In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road. This was a traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman. We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54
Guilty.
and remained off until approximately
Put your crown.
4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November. On Sunday, the state's evidence includes
I can see it. Can anyone hear it?
trial, video surveillance of a
Yeah.
business on the Moscow
You can?
highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description
It's
of
the
the
court.
defendant's Hyundai Elantra,
It's
entering
okay.
Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m. Compiled surveillance that the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra, as I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood.
Guys, sorry, but is he really not going to give us anything new?
He does
Okay.
one thing.
Because this is fucking maddening. Right? This is maddening. How can he bring up that his phone connected to a tower that serviced 1122 King? He can be in his apartment and be using the tower that services 1122 King. Did you know that? He can be in his apartment across the freaking border and utilize that tower.
Yeah.
That's how weak-ass that is. That is how fucking weak-ass that is. Right? And then he goes and says, Oh, he turns off his phone that night. He leaves his apartment. Oh, damn. He leaves his apartment and he turns off his phone because, that's what murderers do. I want proof.
Starting around 3:30 or so in the morning. Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. And approximately 4:05 that morning, the defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn, and the state's evidence would show that the defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence.
You have no evidence that's his
The
car.
state believes that its evidence would then show that the defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked. Defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Kayla Gonzalez. The defendant, as he left that room, for whatever reason, ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body. And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath, as well as blood from both Kaylee and Madison and other trace evidence. But it's important to note single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheath. The state's evidence would show that Xana Knodel was still awake at this time. In fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started. Her room was not on the third floor. It was on the second floor on the west side. As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana, and he ended up killing her, also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed-blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were two other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep.
So he's not an incel?
During the course of this,
What?
one of those roommates
They weren't asleep.
awoke, looked out her door not knowing what was going on, and saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with a black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house through the direction of the kitchen where that sliding door is that I mentioned before. At approximately 4:20 that morning, so this would have been 15 minutes or so later, the defendant's car is seen on a surveillance camera for 1112 King Road, which is immediately next door to the west of 1122,
Oh, that's his
leaving
car.
the area at a high rate of speed. And if the court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom would see that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner, heads north, and then turns to go south on Walenta, which is one of the only ways to get out of that part of town. The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, the defendant's phone comes back on. And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway 95. From there, the defendant's phone activity tracks him back north towards Pullman, Washington, where the defendant lived. About 5:26, starting approximately 5:26, various surveillance cameras in Pullman, Washington pick up the defendant's vehicle as he enters Pullman from the south. and heads north and slightly west towards his apartment, where he arrived at approximately 5:30 in the morning. Later that morning, this Sunday, the 13th of November of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone returned to the area of King Road. We don't know exactly what he did, but it returned to that area. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning.
This is gut-wrenching. This is the state just...
There's one thing.
But this is the state just basically getting to do their opening statement with no nothing, like no fighting back. He's just not like this. We don't know what really happened. Never gonna know what really happened.
He was there for about 10 minutes and then returned to his Pullman residence. About 9:30, the state's evidence will show, evidence taken from the defendant's phone, that he took a selfie of himself on his phone in what appears to be the bathroom of his Pullman apartment.
Oh, the selfie. Are you fucking kidding me?
The defendant's phone then went to the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south.
He doesn't say this is all true.
And the defendant is actually
seen
with his
really
car, various businesses down there. This area is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. Large bodies of moving water down there. In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined, on the 13th and leading up to the 13th, the state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 13th of 2022, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath, as the state believes, to replace the one that was left at the scene of the murders.
Damn it, I liked
The evidence
it.
also will suggest that there were at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history on Amazon, where all these transactions had occurred. Later that week, the state's evidence will show that Mr. Kohberger went to what we would call DMV, motor vehicle licensing here in Idaho, in Pullman, to change his car registration from Pennsylvania to Washington. That's of note because Pennsylvania cars do not require a front license plate. The vehicles seen on the surveillance cameras of the defendant's car showed it didn't have a front license plate on it. At the time of the traffic stop by Deputy Duke in August, it was Pennsylvania plate, no front license plate.
Is that the new thing?
Hmm?
Is that the new thing, that he changed his license plate from Pennsylvania to Washington because he's living in Washington now?
No,
that's not the new thing?
It's near the end.
Mr. Kohberger proceeded to finish his semester of studies at Washington State University and returned to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Law enforcement at this point were aware of Mr. Kohberger, had been accessing information about him, were trying to find him. They located him in Pennsylvania, and they conducted what's called a trash pull. During the nighttime hours, agents of the FBI who assisted immensely with this case, working with the sanitation department back in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania, took trash that had been set out on the street for collection, sent the contents of that from the Pennsylvania residence of the defendant's parents to the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory, where the lab experts there were able to identify DNA on a Q-tip as coming from the father of the person whose DNA was found on the knife sheath that was next to Madison Mogen's body in the bed.
So it was BK's dad.
Subsequently, an arrest warrant was issued here in Idaho, and a search warrant was issued in the state of Pennsylvania with the assistance not only of the FBI, but the Pennsylvania State Police. Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home to return to Idaho. Upon his return to Idaho, a DNA sample was taken from him, and it matched the DNA found on the knife sheath next to Maddie's body at the crime scene. I can tell the court in public. The weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office.
What'd you find?
Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found.
Nothing of
And of
evidentiary
course, we are now
value was
talking
found.
6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania, the defendant's car was seized, and it was actually pretty much disassembled internally. And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it.
Good cleaner.
I think we can all look to our own cars, you know, and those compartments in the doors. We try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there. They were spotless.
So
Vince's car had been meticulously cleaned inside. And the state would present to the jury that that was part of the defendant's plan in covering up this. The defendant has studied crime.
Okay, let's just go down that line for a minute, right? So you telling me that you managed to find a minuscule little bit of teensy-weensy skin cell that's unable to be seen by the human eye underneath the snap of a knife sheath. You managed to find that, right? But throughout this so-called Spartan apartment, which was not full of stuff, like fairly easy to test, I would think, right? And the car, which had been cleaned, you couldn't find any blood, any skin, any hair, nothing underneath the crevices, underneath the drywall. You telling me you pulled out the drywall, right? Carpet, flooring, nothing. You found nothing of evidentiary value whatsoever. And I'm talking like not a speck, not even the teensiest, weeniest little bit. You found nothing. So he's clean. So in 6-8 weeks, he managed to get rid of every microscopic piece. I don't know. No, sorry.
In fact,
Either that or like your technicians are just shit.
Yeah.
A detailed paper on crime scene processing when he was working on his pre-doctorate degrees. And he had that knowledge and skill. So, Your Honor, at the end, the state submits that the evidence that I've given just a quick overview of and that to present in court would consume weeks, which the state is prepared to do and has been prepared to do, would show that as the defendant has just admitted and pleaded guilty on November 13th, 2022, excuse me.
Oh, God.
Ms. Kohberger entered the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did that with the intent to kill. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that that is what resulted, and that he then killed intentionally, willfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice forethought. Manny Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, and Santa Colonel. Thank you.
Thank you.
My voice is going to choose now to break right at the end. Oh, I need a little pat.
You filthy, stinking old man.
Someone's
Based on
running for higher
the state's
office.
proffer, and importantly, based upon defendants.
Sorry. I missed the new thing. What was the new thing?
Oh, that his car was like taken apart and cleaned, I think.
He never said taken apart. He said it was meticulously clean.
Okay, meticulously cleaned. Okay.
Okay. I love the whole nothing of evidentiary value part.
Yeah. He said it was taken apart. Yeah.
He said it was taken apart. Did
But
he?
I wonder what that means exactly.
Yeah, me too. I want to see photos. And I'm sure, well, hopefully we get to see photos. Hopefully everything doesn't stay sealed. That would be good.
It sounds like they will unseal it after sentencing.
Well, I mean, that'll be a
A
treasure
lot of it.
trove of content, won't it?
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. For all of us, maybe. We'll see.
But I mean, okay, so you said disassembled.
Is that Matt? Hey, Matt. How are you, mate?
So, I mean, to
Explicit
me, that
admission.
was the only new thing that I heard, because I always thought his car was just normal. Like, nothing suspicious about the car.
I'm not remotely surprised that it's clean as a whistle. Like, he's... like, from all accounts, he's a clean freak.
Yeah.
Like, germaphobe. So...
But
that doesn't surprise me
that's
in a
the
little
only
bit.
thing I heard that I hadn't heard before.
Fair.
I don't think there was anything else new, unless I'm mistaken, chat.
Entry through the kitchen door. No, we knew that there was an open sliding door.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was the kitchen door or not. Might have been. So it's on the second floor. But yeah, it was. He didn't have to break in.
But yeah,
God,
they still have no
even I'm
motive,
saying it.
no way, nothing connecting him to the victims.
It's in the kitchen. Yeah, there's still nothing. Like I wanted more. Come on, mate. That really was their whole case?
That was the factual basis for it being BK and BK.
That really was it.
It
I called it.
I mean, I think he would have been found guilty if he went to trial, but there was a lot there to work with.
There was so much. There's so much doubt. There's so much doubt. They don't even definitely have him there. They have a pile of just photos of a white blob of a car that's not necessarily him. They don't have the murder weapon. They have an object that he didn't even necessarily touch. Someone else could have freaking touched it. It was the weakest ass case. What the hell? Why is he pleading guilty to this?
So, I mean, I know we're coping and seething, and okay, it just, if he's worried about being put to death, if he's worried about stress on his own family and all that, then is he just saying, yeah, I did it, to skip the trial, to just being, and the way, he stands up to talk to the judge, he's super polite.
He's being the model fucking prisoner.
Would you expect, and again, we're coping and seething here, but I'm asking questions. Would you expect someone who's capable of going into a house and stabbing, okay, let's say he was only going there to stab one person and there was a second girl in the room, so he had to take her out. And then as he was leaving, he bumped into the third girl and he unalived her. And then her boyfriend was there, so he had to take care of him because he probably woke up.
Yeah.
But does that seem like the kind of person who would then just be like, okay, I did it. I don't want to die.
I think this is his rock bottom absolute. He's fucking off his tree. Like, I'm going to die. Just get me out of this moment. And he's got people in his ear, in jail, friends. He thinks are friends and they're not. There are state actors who are posing as his friends in there. And they are just like, dude, this is the best thing for you. Trust me.
Yeah.
We need Solomon on here to talk about what happens to people in jail. Like, this is fucked. This is so fucked. And hi, welcome Sean Raid. And EWD Raptor with 10 more Excited memberships. You are just a legend. You're such a sweetheart. Thank you so much. Welcome. And thank you, Sean, for the raid. Really appreciate it.
Can I just point out that his eyebrows don't look all that bushy from here?
I don't really care whether he's got bushy eyebrows or not.
I mean, Santa's got some bushy eyebrows. Maybe he did.
He does. Okay, listen. If I were one of these families, I would not be satisfied with this.
I would want
right, and I don't mean from the point of view of I want him dead, because I don't believe in the death penalty. If I were if, God heaven forbid, my daughter was stabbed in the middle of the night and they found somebody and this is all they had on him, right? I would
Yeah.
want to know this. I would want to know goddamn lot more of this, right? Like, just because the prosecutors say that's what happened and that's all they had, and then he'd been in jail for a couple of years, and he, like, the option was him walking out in front of a firing squad, and his lawyers are saying, "Oh, we're not ready, judge," and all of their motions have been denied, and that all I get to hear is what the state said. That's it. That's all I get to hear.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, I want to know what really happened. Right? Fucking cough it up, man. This is not enough.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. Like, it doesn't make enough sense. There's not enough. So, anyway, let's just go through it.
Real quick, Mara, I don't know if you got this one earlier. She sent 5.
I did. Thank you, Mara. I appreciate it very much. It was just in the middle of the proceedings, and I said thank you. I really appreciate that. And hello, Dina. 1999 super sticker. You're sometimes so sweet. I really appreciate that. Sometimes the only thing that is circumstantial evidence. I'll tell you something, Stacey. None of the circumstantial evidence stacked up. Just none of it. None. But I can talk about that at another time.
To committing these crimes, the court finds there is a factual basis. Therefore, with respect to count 1, burglary, felony, how do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2, murder in the first degree, as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogan, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Gonsalves, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Right.
So, do you remember
The court will find
the
that
judge
the
kind
defendant
of
understands the nature of the charges and each offense and possible consequences to him of his guilty plea. The court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea and that finds the defendant believes the plea to be in his best interest. I find that the plea was given freely, voluntarily, and was intelligently made. I accept the plea. I direct that it be entered. I'll continue the matter for sentencing in this case.
Pause it real quick.
I think it was mentioned on the call Monday afternoon that
Yeah.
You noticed the judge kind of stuttered on one of the names and then like quickly apologized and said it again and pronounced it correctly. Do you remember? I forget which one it was, but do you remember when Judge, I think during the arraignment or one of the first hearings, mispronounced one of the names and just got flamed by everyone, and then came out at the very next hearing, was apologized for it, and
Yeah.
so now the judge is like making sure like he
Yeah.
says it correctly.
I miss Judge.
I know.
defense wishes to waive a pretrial investigation. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state also?
Yes, Your Honor, the state does not believe pre-sentence investigation is needed given the evidence that is available. We want to go make sure that all of the victims have the opportunity to make statements to the court at sentencing.
Absolutely. And certainly both the state and the defense may present whatever sentencing memorandum and other documents you wish me to consider. The victims will be given an opportunity to provide the statements that they wish to at sentencing. Do we need more than one full day for sentencing?
Really, Heather?
I do not believe so, Your Honor. We have numerous victims, and we have victims who share unique perspectives on this, and we want to make sure that they all have time to express their feelings to the court. But I believe that if we can start perhaps 8:30 or so in the morning, that we should be able to complete it all in one day.
Defense agree with that in terms of the time frame?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So as it happens, we have some time reserved in this case in July and August. The week of July 22nd is available. I don't know if that's too soon for the parties or the next week, the week of August 4 is available. Any preference?
Your Honor, we're prepared as soon as the court wants to schedule it.
The state, I believe, would be prepared on the 22nd. We've told the victims' families that we're looking at approximately those dates.
All right. So because of the plan to bring in so many jurors to fill out questionnaires, I had ordered that no other trials could take place in this courthouse the week of July 22nd. And so we will use that in terms of the sentencing date because of what I'm sure will be the significant interest of the media and the public and the
Hit the subscribe
logistics that will be
button.
required to make that happen. Without trials going, it'll be a lot easier to do that. So let's pick that week. Why don't we pick July 23rd with the idea that if for some reason we don't finish, we could continue into the 24th. And we'll start at 9 in the morning.
Hey, Sandra.
Does that give your team enough time, Sandra? 9 in the morning? All right. Any concerns with that date?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, sir.
All right. Any reason why I should not rescind a non-dissemination order at this time?
Your Honor, I think that given the history of this case, it would be best if that remained in place through sentencing. So
Shut up.
we have time to make sure there's the ability to completely answer questions. That would be the state's preference and recommendation.
We'd have no objection for the order to remain in place for some
All right, I will, at this point, the idea to keep it until sentencing, which time it would be withdrawn.
All right.
Give the parties the space and time to prepare to meet what I'm sure will be the deluge of media requests. That's at least my preliminary decision at this point. We can always revisit if it seems to be, for some reason, I should. That said. Obviously, I don't think the defendant, a bond was ever set for the defendant. Were it would be revoked. The prior order allowing him to come in civilian clothes is revoked, given his plea and no longer the presumption of innocence. And in fact, now the actual conviction for the crimes. He will continue to be held at the jail pending sentencing. Is there anything else to say?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
I assume that the trial date will be vacated and those four jurors will be released.
The trial will be vacated, and I'm sure that the jury commissioner will get word to those that receive their summons that they won't be required to attend. So that said, again, if you would all please wait for the parties and the victims' families and others to leave the courtroom before you do, I would appreciate it. And with that, we're adjourned. All right, please.
Did the court ever resume? No.
No.
Okay.
Oh boy. All right, guys. All right.
You're trying to cheer me up by using the Burger King crown. I'm just not convinced. I'm sorry. I need to maybe I need to see this discovery. But the discovery, the state just put forth its argument.
Sorry.
The state just put forth its case, and there was nothing more there. I'm sorry, that's not enough. There was nothing more there. Am I dreaming? Like, what's going on?
I felt the factual basis. Now it is just a basic basis. I felt it was very weak.
It's incredibly weak. Like, there's nothing more there. I said it all along. I said, guys, if they've got anything more, they'll bring it out. Like, we would have heard about it already. There's not going to be some great big bombshell at trial. And now we know there was not going to be some great big bombshell at trial. Like, we know it.
We'll have to wait for the rest of the discovery.
But that's what I'm saying, right? What can there possibly be in discovery that's so damning? He would have said it. There's no reason to hold it back now. Yeah? He's like, yeah, hell is right. Hey, Kat. Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, mate. Appreciate it. Just, how can anyone be happy with that?
Yeah.
How can anyone be happy? He didn't know them. There is no proof he was there. None. He hasn't given any information about the actual crime. He hasn't said anything. He hasn't said anything that we don't know. He hasn't given us any information that only the killer would know.
I mean,
only the killer would know.
He said it wasn't for sexual.
He
it
said
was in
nothing.
A sexual motivation.
That was the state.
But he said he did it. No, I get that. It's just.
But how is that enough for anybody? How is that even enough for the? How is that enough for the victims' families?
Well, nothing will be enough for the gun Calvis, but
I'm trying to step away from myself for a minute and try and see it from their perspective. What was it enough for them? That's not answers.
I was listening to that and found it to be very weak. I mean, okay, I am sure everybody will be doing the FOIA. I will submit. It would be great to get the body cams.
I feel like we're going to have an issue kind of like in Indiana where only we get some of the discovery.
I don't know.
Yes, because there's things to hide. Right? There is definitely things to hide. Some body cam's just going to go missing. Right? CCTV is going to go missing. Interviews are going to go missing. Guaranteed. I'd like to know why the car was clean. He's a germaphobe.
That was the only thing, Kat, that I thought was a little sus. But again, with proper cross-examination, if they can lay out that he's autistic and OCD and a germaphobe, maybe that's why. Again, we're trying to get to beyond a reasonable doubt hurdle. So it's not just, is it likely or not? It seemed like there was a lot there to work with. And it's weird that he would throw in the towel at this point. Unless he was really concerned for his family and the stress of the trial.
Or someone had threatened his family.
Or he just doesn't want to die.
And he doesn't want to die.
I mean, yeah, you can tell someone, it's, it almost never happens and the appeals are going to go on for decades. But then you've got that hanging over you. And none of us would know what we'd do in that position. We don't know the relationship he has with his family. And I would, even an innocent person could plead to avoid death, yeah?
Yeah.
And, okay, Lefty, I'd rather die than admit to a crime I didn't commit.
Good for you, but you're not walking in his shoes, Lefty.
And what about if your parents or your loved ones would have to then suffer for years and then potentially see you be executed? And you would want to spare them that pain. And there are people like that, like you, Lefty, okay. But it's just, he seems like a weird guy, but that doesn't make him guilty. Well, I mean, confessing that he did it makes him guilty. But it feels like there's still a lot out there that we haven't seen.
Lefty, you're not him. Right? So it's all very well to say, I do this, I do that. You're not walking in his shoes.
Yeah. And it just on the facts, but it feels like there's something there. that has not yet been found.
And yeah, you're right. The Spitfire Dragon, how are you? He's autistic. That's why people think he's weird, and his body language is sus. Absolutely. And the defense tried. They tried to have that brought in at trial so that the jury would not judge him for that. But the judge pretty much laughed at that. The media, general public, they laughed at that. They said, "Oh, it's an excuse for murdering." Right? It was one of the many things over and over that just got thrown back in his face. What worries me is that this is his moment of just rock bottom hopelessness, where he's like, I can't do this. I can't go to trial. I can't have all of these accusations put out to me.
Yeah.
In public, in front of my family. I can't have them go through this. And then I can't have, assuming they find me guilty, which they probably will, because they say they have my DNA.
Yeah.
Don't know how they've got it, but assuming they find me guilty, then my family have to go through. The sentencing phase is horrible, right? The sentencing phase is when you pretty much have to change tactics and go, okay, sure, if I did it, you have to go, I did it, even though you just said for the last 6 weeks that you didn't do it. You have to just go, fine, I did it, but please spare my life because of all these reasons. And they have to get up, the family has to get up and spill all these things about their past and their life. It's horrible. The sentencing phase is freaking horrible, right? So here's Bryan at this point where everything has been denied by the judge, and including his last hope, these alternate perpetrators. The judge has said, no, you can't even talk about them. So here's Bryan going, what's the point, right? My defense aren't ready. The jury's not going to hear about the alternate perpetrators. My family's going to have to go through all this. It's going to cost them a shit ton as well. Remember, they can't even afford to come to his hearings. And he's like, you know what? I'll be okay. I can handle this. I can handle being in prison. I'm strong enough. I can be in prison, right? What if that's his moment right now that he's at? He's willing to give up his freedom to spare his family and this moment. And also because he doesn't want to die. What if that's what it is? Just think about it for a minute. If that's what it is. I was ready to watch the trial and open to not guilty. I really wanted to hear the DNA bit, but after a guilty plea, I believe he did it. I was really interested to hear Bill Thompson's speech today, and hoping for some more information to come out, but no.
Yeah.
Is that Murph?
Yeah.
Hello. Oh my
She's
God.
not helping you cope.
Murph, what have you heard that makes you believe that he's guilty?
Just
besides him just going, hey, I'm guilty. Hey, there's a statement from one of the family members. Their attorney read it on the steps of the courthouse. Yeah, I wonder which one. Although they usually speak for themselves. This case was about putting touch DNA on the same part as blood, semen, and saliva DNA, and they succeeded. Yes, Tina, and it's a very scary thing to do that. Touch DNA, transfer DNA, trace DNA needs to be excluded from all court cases. It needs to be excluded. It's scary. We leave it everywhere we go. And we can transfer it to people who can put it on other things that in places we've never been. It is not the same as blood, semen, and saliva DNA. It's just not the same, and it needs to go away from criminal cases. It needs to. The leaked evidence and the plea pushed me over to he probably did it. What about the leaked evidence? It was touch DNA. There's plenty of expert testimony to speak to that. I can send you a link if you like, Murph.
I don't know. The thing for me is he took a really bad selfie.
It's actually technically transfer DNA, rather than touch transfer. Do you want to put it more technically than that? But yeah, it was absolutely. Anyway, so
Thank
there's
you,
a couple
everyone,
of
for being respectful, and yeah, we can all disagree. That's okay.
Yeah, of course.
We're not. There's true crime gets very vicious at times, and I
This
don't.
is not a true crime channel.
No, I understand that, and I'm just saying thank you for not being that, because it gets very vicious, and I don't really understand why it has to be as bad as politics.
Exactly, and that's kind of on that. That's why I don't call this a true crime channel, because here's something about the term true crime that I find kind of weird. It's like a genre in a bookstore, like in a trashy kind of bookstore, right? Like people say, "Oh, I love true crime. I'm into true crime." There's true crime, and there's crime. It's actually what you're trying to say when you say true crime is crime, right? So it's not a genre. It's not something for you to enjoy so much, like you're just reading a novel.
Yeah.
I feel like the term true crime really degrades the gravity of what it is that we're talking about. And what happens is people get into it. Yeah, it's murder. Yeah, right. Exactly, Breen. And by putting yourself into that that genre and absorbing that genre and going, "Hey, I really love true crime," you get yourself into it and you think, "Oh, this is fun," right? In the back of your mind, you think, "Oh, this is fun," and then you realize that actually it's about real people who have had really, really bad things happen to them. And it's not just about the victims and the really bad things that have happened to the victims. It's about the really bad things that happen to everybody involved, right? So sometimes it's about the really bad things that happen to innocent people. Sometimes it's about even the guilty people and the families that are affected by what the guilty person has done. So it's real, it's reality, it's actually real life. It's not a genre that we can just like go, "Oh, I really enjoy it," right? Now we try and sort of make it palatable by cracking jokes every now and again over here, right? And on some of the law channels, and coping, right? But by just going, "Oh, I love true crime," and everything's like true crime, I feel like there's a way of just like making it accessible to people until they get into it, and then they are filled with this rage when they start to get involved. Rage takes them over because actually there's so much anger and emotion involved in it. And then suddenly it starts to take over their life and they're filled with this anger because it doesn't go the way they want, or people are vile. People can be mean.
Yeah.
It's almost as divisive as politics. It's up there with politics, right? Like there are many cases I've followed that I've had to just
Stop.
because the meanness that comes out of the people involved because they get so tied to it.
Thankfully, Karen Reed was not like that.
Oh, yeah, no. Karen Reed wasn't like that at all. Hence why I didn't go near Karen Reed at all, because I saw after the first trial just how divisive that one was.
When I was at the Lori Vallow trial, the first one back in April, and the Karen Reed trial was coming up, I was in the media with some of the other content creators there. Not that I'm on their same level or anything like that. But
don't be silly. You're better than them.
No, I'm more honest, but regardless. We kind of all joked. None of us were really covering Karen Reed, and we just all joked like, yeah, we don't want to touch that at all because of just how bad it was and how it just, people became so vicious over it.
They did become vicious over it. So whilst I definitely disagree with a lot of people on this case, and I've been following it all along. I've been waiting for there to be something to come out that's more solid than what they have. And people keep saying, oh, something will come out at trial, everything's under seal, there's got to be more to it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, where is it? And today, here we are, and the state comes forth with their case, and that is it. That's all they've got. Right? I want answers. Yeah. So, yeah, it's tough for me. I've seen wrongful convictions, and I know that innocent people do take pleas. They do. I'm really disappointed. I really wanted to be, if he was guilty, I really wanted to be convinced of his guilt. Yeah. There you go. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be convinced. Because that's how it's supposed to work, isn't it?
In theory.
In theory, that's how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be convinced by the state of his guilt. And they hadn't done it. And they should have to do it under cross-examination, yeah? Now, this is interesting. So, Heather Mosher says, Payne is no longer law enforcement, if you don't know, and he got a job at the university. Sus. So, Mr. Manlett, Mr. Little Bald Manlett, who was the lead investigator on the case, no longer LE. Well, that's interesting because there was lots of very interesting things that would have come out about his involvement with the case at trial. No, he's not law enforcement anymore. He works for the university. I'm sure you're saying the University of Moscow there, Heather?
I don't know, maybe he did his 20 and retired.
Those who've been following this case know that there's a huge vested interest for the University of Moscow and the whole of that area, that town, in the arrest happening very quickly, in everyone feeling very comfortable very soon that the murderer was off the streets and he wasn't from there, he wasn't connected with the university whatsoever. The university was fine, everything was fine. Right, all done, and they could get back to their term and to getting their student intake back. And there's a good reason why it was a matter of getting rid of that house quickly, because it was just a beacon sitting there deterring people from enjoying their time at the university. The university is the cash cow of that area. So Moscow University, it wouldn't exist as a hub at all without the university. And so there we go. Isn't it interesting? Payne works for the university now. If BK had been in Hawaii that night, the state would have claimed he tried to get away with the perfect crime. zero evidence he did it, but he did. Oh yeah. Okay. So the other thing I'm really interested in is I want to hear from Cyree. I really, really, really want to hear what Cyree had to offer. I'm so gutted that we don't get to hear Cyree's testimony. So, question is, like, when the gag order is lifted, do you think that we will hear from Cyree?
I don't know. That would be interesting.
It'd be
I would like to,
great.
but I don't know if he wants to. Because he kind of put himself out there, so.
Stacey, imagine if, like, it's a small town, right? And there's one big industry in the town. One. It's the university. That's it. 4 people from the university are stabbed brutally in the night in an off-campus house. Like, right there. Do you think that people are going to want to enroll in the university? Immediately afterwards, the police were telling people, oh, don't worry, everyone's safe, this was a targeted attack. They didn't know.
They still don't.
Cyree needs to get his stuff peer reviewed. I'm so gutted we don't get to hear from Cyree. I really wanted to hear what he had to say. Now, Cyree does have his own YouTube channel, and he sometimes talks about his cases after they're done. I don't know. Don't know whether he would on this one, but he was so mad. He was so angry about what was being hidden by the feds with timing advance records, which were, in his opinion, exculpatory. They had Bryan, his phone, driving in the opposite direction to the west, not being turned off, just disconnecting from the network because the phone coverage was quite weak out in the west towards Hawaii Park. So I'd love to know what he knows. We'll see. Hippler wouldn't let Cy give his proffer when he was waiting on Zoom. I know. And was careful and said, okay, well, fine. You don't want to talk to him? Well, he didn't say it. This is not verbatim. But she was like, no, fine. If you don't want to talk to him, then okay, I will voir dire Nick Balance and bring it in that way. So if you want to leave it till trial, cool, we'll leave it till trial. So basically ends up with a huge Brady issue at trial. But not to be now. He's already been attacked publicly by Hippler. So does he care? He's a bit of a rogue, old Cyree. So he doesn't seem to give a shit. Because when, you know, that Colorado judge who was the only judge to ever not accept him as a as an expert witness because he only had an associate's degree.
Oh, that's ironic.
Cyree's made, I think, several videos on it now.
Has he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless he didn't lie about his degree.
No, he did not lie. No, his CV was very straightforward. Yeah, but no, he's been quite upfront about what happened with that case and that judge. So maybe there's going to be, we'll hear from Cyril and what he thinks of Hitler and also what he thinks of the case. That would be really interesting. Yeah, his YouTube channel is called Socialite Crime Club. Yeah. Well, at least he didn't lie and put it on his website. Oh dear. Sorry, I just have another chat to bring up. Lawyer said it's not all the evidence, just the basic for hearing, and expects the rest will eventually be released. You'd think it would be their best evidence, though, wouldn't you, Half Irish?
I mean,
Wouldn't you?
I don't understand why you would not put it forward.
Yeah. Like, why would you put forward such weak evidence? Like, if you had something good, if you had, like, when they were talking about his apartment and his car, if they had something of the victims there, they'd say, right? When they were talking about supposedly his car being at the house, if they had CCTV of him, like a photo of him, they'd say, right? If they had another witness to identify him other than just Dylan saying she saw someone with a bushy eyebrow, then they'd say, yeah, like, wouldn't they? BK can still withdraw his plea. Yeah, but like we were saying earlier, Scott, Line pointed out, okay, so he withdraws his plea and then everything that he just said in court gets used against him, right?
Yeah.
Does it? I guess. Tina B. Okay, yeah, that might be a point. Tina B, you might be right. He probably could have mentioned things that are still under seal. Maybe. Maybe, you could be right. Even EDB said it only has to be enough to make the threshold. Okay. Well, all right. Okay, so maybe that's a bit more comforting. Maybe there might be something else.
Hopefully.
Hitler warned him that would happen. Warned him what would happen. Oh, you might be referring to everything that he's saying could be used against him further. Yeah. That might be what you mean. Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave my mind open to that then. That's actually a really good point. So there's still a gag order in place, and perhaps the state could only say the things that we already know. Maybe there is more.
Okay.
That was Bill's chance to save face and convince the public he has the right guy. He gave the best state had. I mean, that's my feeling. It's my feeling, Heather. But right now I'm just like, that's not enough. I feel like that if I was one of the families, I would want a lot more than that. But okay, I could only just hope that there's more. One other thing I wanted to say, and that is that the sharks are circling already, and of course they are. They have been waiting, and didn't I tell you that this Dr. Ramsland, Dr. Goddamn Ramsland, remember her? Christine Ramsland, Dolly.
Mm-hmm.
You remember who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Mrs. 78 Books?
Mm.
I knew she was writing one. And Brian goddamn Etten, that little manlet, right? He's all like, oh, she's such a stand-up character. She's a good friend. And she was all mad at Howard Bloom for spreading misinformation. Howard Bloom, right? Because he's just a grifter.
Yes.
Right? And Christine's not. Liar. I knew it. Right? So Christine Ramsland, she is the one who was one of Brian's lecturers back in Pennsylvania, right, at DeSales University. She's also a true crime novelist. Of course she is, right? So she's written books about Ted Bundy, of course, and a bunch of other people, right? She's been sitting there over in Pennsylvania getting ready to release her book about her time with Brian.
Aww. Her time with Brian.
Of course she has,
How
right? So
romantic.
she's been waiting for the hammer to fall on him, and she's been talking to Brian Etten behind the scenes and just waiting for this to happen, right? She hasn't been and Brian Etten has even said on Twitter in the last 12 hours or so, oh, Dr. Ramsland hasn't been able to speak because of the non-dissemination order, but she, and also because he hasn't been found guilty, but she can now, and she's going to be speaking to me.
And what do we say to her?
Sit down, bitch. Heather, she's a vulture. Actually, no, it's not because of non-dissemination order, because she's not bound by it, right? It's because he wasn't found guilty yet, right? Yeah. So she's been sitting there ready to pounce. And also, she contacted the family when he was arrested. What the fuck she had to do with it? She inserted herself and contacted the family when he was arrested to, give her best regards, right? His lecturer, she wasn't even his lecturer anymore, right? He was over in Washington by then. He had been for a while. Yeah. So she inserted herself into this because she could see it was a national case, and he was suddenly like this, well-known supposed killer. Yeah, right? So she contacts the family.
Naturally.
Oh, she'd been called as a witness. I didn't know that, man. Yeah, she's from DeSales, yeah. Yeah, we did a stream on it back when she came out and did this, had a big hissy fit about Howard Bloom. And the crap Howard Bloom had been saying. And it was just interesting the way Howard Bloom was being attacked by her, and it managed to get her name out in the media at the time via Brian Etten. And P.S., Brian Etten has not been the best actor in all of this. Not been the best actor. I have very good reason to believe that he had that selfie well before it was released in a document.
Yeah.
Like months before it was released in a document. Not in the exhibit, not in that PDF, but actually as a JPEG separately, about 4 months before it was released in a document. If anyone wants to know more about that, go to Ms. Potts' channel. Hey, Sean, with the super sticker. That's very nice of you, $7.99. I think it'll probably be next year when we get a verdict on the mushroom trial. Just straight. Yeah, she's a vulture. Hey, Dee. She said she had Brian's materials that no one else had access to. Of course she does. So she has unique access. Well, okay, lady, good. Yeah. People like that just make me want to
Gag me with a spoon. Grody.
do what Bryan said he did. Hey, Kel, how are you? Yeah, clamoring for the spotlight. It's, you know what it is? It's money. Like, I don't even think it's ego with this woman. Like, I think if you go and have a look at her Amazon page, she has 78 books. 78.
I miss her when she sold out after 69.
The book writing professor must follow, was it FERPA laws? Usually cannot discuss present or former students. Oh, we'll see. I'm sure she's worked it all out. I'm sure she's seen a lawyer. She's been planning this for a long time. A long time. She get unique access by offering you unique access. Well, it's funny you say that, Shibbles, because Ashley Banfield did a piece where she actually made very clear reference to an insinuation that Bryan had the hots for her from this Christine Ramsland, this lady in her 60s, right? So she actually said that Bryan's motive may have been Bryan's motive may have been to impress a woman and not just anyone. He's become a master at his university. He's well known in the true crime.
She's a hottie biscotti.
Study professor. Yeah. She said that. Legit. And that's how she said it. Ridiculous. Why are we upset? Sorry, all the
Your voice is a little low.
because she has been planning all this time to write a book about Bryan Kohberger and what he was like in her class, and she made out like he was on the side of his family and like reached out to offer them, her regards when he was first arrested. But she has been chatting to Bryan in the background all this time. She's supposed to find him, right? So what's wrong with her mic?
It sounds a little better, but chat's still.
Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah.
Hello.
I think so. Yeah, is it better? Okay.
Is it better? Okay. All right. So yeah, she is completely betraying any confidentiality of being his teacher, right? She has been planning all along to write this book and release this book as soon as he's found guilty, right? Saying that God goodness knows what about his demeanor or whatever, right? But she also inserted herself and contacted his family when he was first arrested to give her regards for some reason, even though they don't know her or anything to do with her, right? She was just his teacher. And yeah, she's been talking to Bryan Etten all this time, and she's just like a true crime author, right? And then she goes and calls out Howard Bloom, who is the worst spreader of misinformation. He's another true crime author, so she calls him out publicly for spreading misinformation. Bryan Etten brings up that Catherine Ramsland has said that he's wrong about something, and then she manages to get her name in the media. This is 6 weeks ago. Isn't that interesting that Bryan Etten helps get Christine Ramsland's name in the media at that time, oh, remember her? She used to be his professor. And makes out like she's some great woman, right? And if you actually go and look into it, she's got 70-something 8 novels, right? And now, when Bryan's pleading guilty, she turns back up again, and Bryan goes, oh, wow, well, you know what? Isn't it interesting? She's releasing a book, and we can talk about it now. Shock. Oh, is Sean on David's Lego stream?
No, model stream. I'm sorry.
Oh, model stream. Right.
Sorry.
Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, we'll link over to there. What's he making?
Not sure.
No one ever knows.
Learning to make pedestals.
Okay. Guys, I'm obviously still processing this. It's been like 2.5 years. And yeah, I don't believe it. It's really hard to believe. So I've seen too many times when there's been wrongdoing happen. So I just need a little bit of time. I really appreciate you guys being here. And thank you for the memberships and everything, everyone. I appreciate it. Super chats and stuff. I know I haven't been streaming very much lately, and I've been running the Zach trial during the days, a couple of nights. I appreciate people who've been watching that either live or afterwards. Free Zach, he's innocent. That man is absolutely 100% innocent. And I think we're up to day 12 tomorrow. So please go and support that, or watch the Wrongful, or listen to the Wrongful podcast. So hang on a minute, I'm just doing a redirect. Hey, Darlie, what are you got doing?
Just my courtroom roulette tomorrow at 10 Eastern, where we just go to different courtrooms around the country and try to find some interesting moments with the judges, like Judge Simpson, Judge Middleton. Looking at introducing some other judges that aren't easily gotten to, but it's a work in progress.
Oh, thank you, Half Irish. Day 12 tomorrow, a.m. It'll be at 10 a.m. Free Zachariah Anderson. There is the link for that one. He still needs your support, everybody. Zach absolutely does. His appeal is taking a bit longer than we were hoping. So, love Zach. Love his family. Nice to see you, Murph. Good to see you. It was cathartic watching it again with you, Hella. Glad to have someone as mad as me. Thank you, Shami. I really appreciate you. You're awesome, mate.
No, man.
Volume 69 is spicy. I think there might be something wrong with this cord. I need to replace it because it pops in and out. Okay, time for the song. And when you get over to Sean, say hello, Raid, please, and thank him for routing us through
earlier
as well. That was nice.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you for being with us here.
Her name was Ella. She was an Aussie. She was a fake lawyer from the future. She got on YouTube and made some live streams. Her co-host is Dolly and she dances sometimes. The words are always so loud and because she's an 803. To be excited ignorance. Her cat is staring for me.